Let's talk a little bit about what we saw on Monday Night Raw in the main event. I've been pinning down the Intercontinental title match at Mania as a fatal four-way. And that fatal four-way was Braun Breaker, the champion, going in, Finn Balor, AJ Styles, and Logan Paul. One, because that's what I want to see. Those are four great wrestlers that would put on a heck of a fatal four-way. And two, that's what we had seen up to this point in the build towards Mania for Braun Breaker's Intercontinental Championship. We saw Breaker and AJ Styles kind of exchange words a little bit. We saw Breaker try to spear AJ Styles at one point. We saw Styles get the better of Braun Breaker and almost embarrass him whenever he knocked him out of the ring. Breaker threw his shirt at him and Styles just snagged it like he was Henrik Lundqvist of the New York Rangers. Breaker never went back to that. He still hasn't gone back to that. And they are slowly building the AJ Styles versus Logan Paul conflict. So at this point, it almost feels like we're heading for 3 singles feuds because AJ and Logan feel like they might be going to a one-on-one matchup at WrestleMania. It's similar to what we saw last year with AJ and the rising star that was LA Knight. Now it is AJ and Logan Paul who continues to ascend throughout this business. After Finn Balor lost, I would say somewhat clean on Monday night, he'll obviously have something to say about that. But Finn Balor was pinned 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. Maybe we're heading for Finn Balor versus Dominik Mysterio, because Mysterio is somebody who's done a lot of great work between last year's Mania and this year's Mania. And he's also somebody that's been on the card for a couple consecutive Manias. Don't think he's just going to be a manager at the grandest stage of them all. Maybe we're heading towards Balor versus Mysterio, because as we'll get into in a minute, they need something to heat up the Judgment Day. Since JD McDonough went down with an injury, the Judgment Day story has been a little all over the place. We'll talk about that in a minute. But then after that match, after Breaker versus Balor in what was a solid matchup, what was a nice retention of the Intercontinental, title, we see Penta come out. Now, earlier in the show, Penta ended his feud with Ludwig Kaiser. He went over. He beat Kaiser in the straight fight, and then immediately after that, had an interview ringside and said, I'm going after the Intercontinental Championship. Seems like that's a clean break for Penta. And now he's going after Braun Breaker. And he reiterated that fact by coming out to help Breaker against the Judgment Day post-victory, and then holding the title and looking straight in Breaker's face, and we get the stare down. I've been saying since Penta came onto the scene early in January that they are building him with a rocket ship strapped to his boots. And that's exactly what we're seeing. He goes through the first couple of weeks where it's just showcasing his talents, picking up some victories on Monday Night Raw, beating guys like Pete Dunne multiple times, beating Chad Gable in his debut, beating Ludwig Kaiser, and then suffering his first loss, but not taking the pin to build up this matchup with Ludwig Kaiser. He puts him down, he ends the feud, and now he's established as one of the best in the mid-card. And now it feels like he has built some momentum before going up against Braun Breaker. And now we have that stare down that makes me think maybe, just maybe, this is the matchup. This is the title. This is Braun Breaker in his first Mania. That is something that I have now said that I thought it was going to be Breaker Styles. I thought it was going to be Breaker Balor. I thought maybe it was the Fatal 4-Way. I'd like to not give up on that, but it feels like we're heading in an opposite direction. It feels like whoever you put with Braun Breaker, we're all going to get excited about. And I think that just speaks to the level of star that they have on their hands with their Intercontinental Champion. So if we're looking at 3 singles matches, one, I don't know how they're going to fit all of these matchups and all of these feuds on the WrestleMania weekend. That'll be a very difficult position for Triple H and the booking of the company. But if we're going Penta versus Breaker, that's going to be an insane matchup. Insane matchup. And whoever wins, nobody is going to be upset with that one. Styles versus Paul is interesting. They're selling it as the AJ Styles worked so hard and so long to get to this level, and Logan Paul just kind of walked in the front door without ever doing it and was given opportunity after opportunity. Sure, you could tell a good story with that. There's a good why behind why those two would match up. And then you have Finn Balor and Dom. The problem with that is I don't know which of them can take the pin at WrestleMania. Finn Balor has main evented Monday Night Raw on Netflix 3 times now, and yet it feels like he is no closer to be taken seriously in any title picture than guys like AJ, guys like Logan, guys like Penta. Balor needs to start stacking some wins. And honestly, post SummerSlam, the momentum hasn't been great for the entire faction of the Judgment Day. That would be a great way to break Finn from Judgment Day, let them reset, because right now the heart of the Judgment Day is Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, and Dom Mysterio. Finn's out to lunch. Feels like he's on his own. Feels like he's on an island. JD will have to see what happens when he comes back. And Carlito is what Carlito is. He is the comic relief that keeps on giving. But it feels like we're heading, instead of this big, massive, fatal 4-way with all this incredible talent, feels like we might be heading for 3 singles matches. Or I talked about the multi-man, multi-team ladder match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Maybe those SmackDown Tag Team Championships just happen to be on SmackDown that weekend and not get the Mania card, and we end up with a 6-man ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. Everything's on the table, right? This is a windy road. This is a windy build to WrestleMania. It's been a weird build to WrestleMania, and it might just get even weirder as we continue to try to pin down what they're going to do with the Intercontinental title.